Thank you. And I sent my presentation on, so I'm hoping that it is queued up and able to be shown. I've learned how to operate whether I have a presentation that is shown or not, but there were some important visuals. Can you let me know if you have it queued up?
We've got it ready. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Good. And I'll just say forward when we need to advance it. So, first of all, I want you to know that I've had a wonderful relationship with ICANN dating back about 25 years when Dr. Malapo brought the ICANN Boys Choir to America and came to the National Civil Rights Museum, which was the site of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination. We hosted them there. They toured places in Memphis, and we have enjoyed a great relationship ever since. In fact, I count you all as my sisters and brothers, and I count South Africa as my next home. So I'm coming to visit after this COVID virus is over. So again, thank you for inviting me. Now, to set the context for this presentation, I wanted to tell you a little bit about Memphis, Tennessee, and advance the slide for me. A little bit about Memphis, Tennessee, and where we stand and what's going on in Memphis. First of all, I think it's appropriate to begin by telling you that Memphis is the hub of a 7-state region comprised of about 5 million people. They're almost advanced, 1.4 million residents. Move forward with the slide. 1.4 million people in the metropolitan area, about 300,000 jobs in the labor force. And we've seen a 10% increase in the millennial population, which is awesome because millennials are savvy from a high-tech perspective, and they're part of the creative class. Forward, please. We have a number of assets that make the Memphis metropolitan area a place in which to conduct business and a great place in which to live. Go forward, please. And some of the aspects that we have the 4 R's: road, rail, river, and runway. And from the standpoint of roads, the city is located on the 3rd busiest corridor in the United States. 75% of the U.S. population lives within a 2-day drive of Memphis, Tennessee, and 40% of the population lives within a 1-day drive of Memphis, Tennessee. I'm going to move on to rail, if you'd advance for me, please. The greater Memphis region is served by 5 Class 1 railroads, which represent the 3rd highest concentration in the United States of America. So transporting goods and products, and I loved hearing about Casper. I want to know more about it. We can transport those products via either road, rail, river, or runway. But our rail system is an awesome system because it represents the 3rd highest concentration of rail in the United States. So transporting goods and products via rail is very efficient. So I've talked about road, I've talked about rail. Now I want you to understand what the network of rail looks like, the intersection of transportation, the infrastructure, what it looks like in our region. You can advance it, please. So now I want to talk about the river. Memphis, Tennessee is a river city, and we're known as a river city. The city actually sits high atop the bluff on the mighty Mississippi River. And sitting high atop the bluff, we are the 2nd largest inland port on the shallow end of the Mississippi River and the 5th largest inland port in the United States. Many of you know about Washington, D.C., New York, Atlanta, L.A., but you don't know about Memphis. So I'm going to just take a few more minutes and tell you that a whole awesome part of Memphis is really critical. We have the 5th, I said, largest inland port in the United States. So road, rail, river, now runway. We can move on to the airport system, if you would. Our airport serves 27 markets with nonstop flights. We served 4.4 million passengers in 2018, And we're currently engaged in a $245 million modernization plan to actually renovate our airport so that we can make it state of the art. So we in America and some global countries will really have access and the ability to get to Memphis, Tennessee. Now I want to shift a little bit and talk about this pandemic. We in America understand that we are in the middle of three major pandemics. And let me express it this way. We've got a health pandemic due to COVID-19. We have an economic pandemic as a result of COVID-19. And in America, we also have a social justice pandemic due to police brutality and the disparities that have been laid bare as a result of the COVID-19 virus. And so as we think about that, I want you to see a little bit of the impact that the virus has had on the area. So looking at these two charts, the first graph shows the tremendous small business closures. Small businesses have been impacted in a tremendous way by the coronavirus. So the first graph shows the small business closures in March, with some of them rebounding if you look in August. And now it reflects about a 20% decrease in businesses that were open before. It was significantly lower than that in April. It started to tick up in May and June, and now August, only about a 20% of the closures are down. Now, part of that is because the federal government provided trillions of dollars in stimulus money to support the economy for individuals as well as to prop small businesses up. And so we had a Small Business Association injury disaster loan. We had something called the CARES Act, and that allowed businesses to do a little bit of rebounding so that you see those numbers tick up. The second graph that shows you the trending in small business revenue. And again, you'll see the tremendous dips in the revenue right after we shut down. And then you see how it's gradually ticking back up. So right now, small business revenue decreases are really about 20%, about 20%. You can move forward, please. So the next chart shows what is happening from an air passenger standpoint, the impact on travel. I can tell you the impact on travel was horrendous. And this chart really reflects what that looks like. In April, May, June, July, and also in August, it hit rock bottom in April with us being 80% down, and the greater Memphis region, the travel in America was 90% down, and in Memphis, it was about 87% down. And you can see what has happened. It is lessening as more people are taking advantage of getting on planes and flying, although there's still a great deal of skepticism around that. And if you'll move forward, the next chart actually has the ability to show you what the markets around Memphis look like. I will also tell you that in addition to small business, the travel and tourism industry was also greatly impacted and is still being impacted by the coronavirus. And that is a tremendous challenge because Memphis attracted 11 million visitors as a result of travel and tourism. And because of the amenities that we have Graceland in Memphis, Tennessee. We have the National Civil Rights Museum, which is really the site of the assassination of Dr. King. We have many other museums, artistic forums. We have Beale Street, one of the most iconic streets in America. So tourism is big business in Memphis, Tennessee. But you can see how this pandemic has impacted Memphis and Nashville hotel occupancy. The good news, I was on the phone the other day with a young man who's over the Convention and Visitors Bureau in Memphis, and he said from the low of 20% occupancy, we've now come up to about 40, to 50% occupancy in Memphis, Tennessee. So what does all of this mean for you and how you operate in a post COVID-19 environment? Well, I would submit to you that there are four things that you really need to consider. And those four things include uh, basing your future direction on data. I've heard some of your presenters talk about data, and that is critical in being able to understand and assess exactly where you are going. I think you also have to build new strategic alliances and partnerships. I think you got to take advantage of the crisis as an opportunity to see the impact that it can have from a positive perspective on your business and on your future. And then you have got to understand what the future of work looks like. And I really want to explore all of these. So if you'll advance it to that post-COVID-19, and let's talk about how data is going to be extremely important. We've got to be able to utilize data and research to provide foundational direction. So if your business was impacted tremendously, whether you're a company, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a small business, sometimes you have to look at the data and decide if you need to pivot. Do you need to change direction of your business? Because while the COVID-19 virus creates issues, it also creates some opportunities. And what we've been able to do at the Greater Memphis Chamber is look at three bodies of research that did several things for us. One, it allowed us to identify industries that are growth industries that are best aligned with the assets of the marketplace. So understand in your market what is growing, what is declining. And if you can get out ahead of those growth business segments, you can be highly successful post-COVID. For us, we understood that there were three major industries that were important to us, and they are growth industries. And interestingly, all involve technology, which is the messaging I've heard from some of your presenters previously. So the medical device and innovation technology is one of the industries. The second one for us is food, tech, and agribusiness. We are centered in an area that is right for agricultural development and growth and testing products. That's one of the values of Memphis, Tennessee. And then the third is logistics, technology, and transportation. Federal Express is located here in Memphis, Tennessee. Now Amazon has a major office here. And then Google is going just south of Memphis and building a huge plant down in South Haven, Mississippi, which is just to the south of Memphis. So we've got to understand as well where the available jobs are. And we did some labor market data analysis, and we understand that if we're attracting these highly technical jobs, we've got to have a workforce and a pipeline that allows us to develop the skills to be able to meet the needs of the marketplace. And so understanding the industries and the jobs that will be available, understanding what the workforce looks like and getting the workforce prepared for these new jobs that are coming in. And then for Memphis, we are also very interested in the Brookings Institution to measure factors that drive equity, because a lot of the marches and a lot of the civil unrest is around police brutality that has been inflicted on African-American males. And the interesting thing about it that's different from the civil rights movement is these marches are being held and they are so much more diverse. So it's not just people that look like you and me that are leading the marches. It's people that look different from us that are at the forefront of these marches, and they're gaining a lot of attention and a lot of traction. So I've talked federal dollars are allocated to the marketplace. In addition to that, representatives, congressmen, senators are also appointed, and they grow based on the growth of the market. So it is imperative that we sign people up for our census. And then the second piece of that is we are connecting the fiber optic cable in our most impoverished areas so that our young people can have connectivity. And we're calling that digital empowerment. We got to reset Memphis. Some of the things that existed pre-COVID cannot exist post-COVID, because all we'll be doing is perpetuating a continual cycle of poverty. And we can ill afford to do that. We've got to elevate the bottom or the top will fall. And we've got to understand that. We've also stood up a group of protesters and activists. We did have one small instance where there was some glass breaking after the death of Floyd, the killing of Floyd. And the protesters marched for a while. Black Lives Matter was very active. We have an activist community that is very strong. But you've noticed that Memphis has not erupted in fires, bombings, riots. And that's because the chamber took the lead in sitting down with the activists, with the business community and clergy. So it's clergy, business community, chamber at the same table. And I told business leaders, shut up and just listen to what the activists have to say, because that historically has never happened. And I'm not sure it's happening in any city other than ours across America, because some of the cities are trying to just contain the situations that they've had. But we have been extremely proactive in hearing the voices of our activists and protesters, embracing them, building action plans around their issues that they have. And they have 4 major issues. I won't talk about them because I know I've got a limited amount of time. If we have time at the end and there's a question, I'm happy to do it. So we've got a committee called From Protest to Progress. And we mean to see progress because we're going to have metrics associated with it, timelines that the business community will have to live up to. They will adopt these plans. And by the way, each of the 4 committees are led by business leaders. So those are some of the things when we talk about using the crisis as a catalyst. And we're also promoting the market as a ripe investment community for Benjamin Preen, and he started talking about the future of work. He is the director of the Center for Work, and he basically has laid out a roadmap for the future forward concepts around work. And some of them are very cleverly stated, because he says we're going to go from hierarchies that are traditional in organizations to hierarchies. And what he means by that is that traditional business structures are going to have to adjust to change. The way it used to be is not the way it will be in the future. Basically, hierarchies are disconnected often from a networked world. Hierarchies are a bit disconnected because it's all about rank and what position I hold. But the new generation works independent of predefined ranks. So we're moving from hierarchy to hierarchy. The second point is that we're going to move from thumb to voice. We're not going to be tapping keys anymore. You see what the pandemic has done. So now it's got to be about voice technology. It enables everyone to operate without touching. In the business environment, we're going to move from cubicles to couch. We're going to move from a less formal environment to a more relaxed environment, and there'll be a greater number of people working remotely. So establishing protocols for remote work will be important, and making sure that everybody understands what those protocols are. So it'll be less self-contained spacing, although with COVID-19, the pandemic may have shifted that. So we may even be pivoting as we start thinking about future forward work. And so these are just three. He's got about 10 or 15 characteristics that really speak to what the future of work is going to look like and how it will be different for all of us, not just here in America, but all around the world. So I guess the critical questions that you should ask that are important to drive success is, are you prepared now to take advantage of the future? What skill sets are required to be successful? How must education change to meet future needs? And what kinds of relationships do you have in your area that blends business, who understands what's happening, with education, who may not understand clearly? So now we get to build curricula that is designed to address those needs. Have you assessed your mission or reassessed the mission of your organization? What about your value proposition? What was of value before COVID-19 may not be of value after COVID-19. And then how will you adjust and reinvest to address the new jobs and a new reality? These are the questions. You can decide, but don't wait too late, because the future is already here. The choice is yours. I thank you very much. That concludes my presentation. And if there is time for questions, I'm happy to take them. If not, I thank you again for inviting me to share. And after COVID, if you're interested in coming to Memphis, Tennessee, I will be here to greet you if the Lord says the same. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Miss Beverly Robertson. A round of applause. I'm definitely going to take it with your word, and I'm on my way to Memphis as soon as the airports open. I'm definitely touching down. So it's interesting because I'm not sure what part of the U.S. Memphis is situated in terms of campus geographical standing, but I'm all for soul food. So the collard greens, the grits, the mac and cheese. Yes, I am that girl. But thank you so much.
We're in the southeastern part of the United States, just so you know it. And I want to do a little bit of a shout out to Colin and Bungie. These are my children. When they come to America, they stay with me, and Dr. Malapo. So just know that I appreciated you so much, and thank you again for inviting me. I'm going to see you in South Africa after this is over as well.
Thank you so much.